Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging with me on this Wednesday. So I want to talk about one of my favorite baits anytime you're fishing flat. So typically this is going to be around cover, lily pad fields. Doesn't matter what time of year. Could be in the fall, could be right now, could be when the lily pads die and it's just stems. But this is the greatest bait to fish around really heavy cover areas like that when they've seen too many frogs. So I've talked about this quite a bit, but I've never made this video just specifically about this. So let's talk about the rig, because there's a lot of different ways you can rig it. There's a lot of different hooks and lines and all that, and I've got the perfect recipe for landing fish when it comes to the setup. Now, there are a few things that I think have changed over the years that I also want to talk about, but first let's talk about what bait this is and what companies make a bait like this. So I always consider this a solid body swim bait. The first tournament that was ever won on this was in 2009 by Jimmy McMillan on Lake Okeechobee in January. The fish were spawning. He was reeling this around Kissimmee grass, shallow, and they were just coming up and swirling on it, and he dominated the tournament. Bass have never seen anything like this up to that point. So basically what you have is a solid body swim bait again, and then I put a super line hook because you're throwing this around heavy cover. So with an easy swimmer, this is Gambler's version, this is a really good one, has a really unique sound that comes off the back of this tail when you gurgle it on top. Has really good action. This is just an all-around great swim bait. I catch them in all depth ranges with this, but shallow, it's probably the best. And for an easy swimmer, it's all about a 5/0 Gamakatsu extra wide gap super line hook. Now, if you go up to the Big Easy, you got to go up to a 6/0 super line extra wide gap Gamakatsu hook. Now, you can screw in a weight on the easies. Big Easies, easy swimmers, easy swimmer a little bit smaller. Big Easy I think is like 6-inch and easy swimmer is like 5-inch. So on the easies, the way the head is designed, the best way to rig this one is with a 1/16 or a 1/32 bullet weight lead with a bobber stopper. If you try to do the screw-in weights with this, there's not enough room for that hook and the screw-in and where it's going to end up on this tail. So whenever you're using an easy swimmer or a Big Easy, it's all about the bobber stopper and the normal bullet weight, but the really small ones like a 16th or a 32nd. Now, you can also use a skinny dipper, and a lot of companies make something very similar to a skinny dipper. So you have Big Bite Cane Thumper, all kinds of different baits that are like that. And they're all good. I like the Cane Thumper. I like the Skinny Dipper. The Berkeley used to make one called the Grass Pig. There's one in every company for the most part. You can use the screw-in weight with those, but typically I'm using this and the Skinny Dipper simultaneously because this one has a little bit more action, kicks a little bit more. That Skinny Dipper's a little more subtle. So I like to use them all together. Here you go with the Skinny Dipper. The difference though is I use a 4/0. Something about the plastic, a little bit thinner plastic. I use a 4/0 extra wide gap superline hook on the Skinny Dipper. Now, I'm telling you, with all those hooks, specifically the 4 and the 5, the 4/0 being on the Skinny Dipper and the 5/0 being on the easy swimmer, when you hook a fish on that, they never come off. Now, that is the most important part of this whole thing, because if you do try this technique and you don't necessarily know how to wait on a fish when they bite it, you're going to pull this away from them. So here's the whole deal. And 50-pound braid, so you can make really long casts. If it's Power Pro, you probably got to go up to 65. If it's Suffix, 50 is perfect. Braided line always, high-speed reel, and some type of 7'3" heavy action rod. Okay. Now let's talk about how to get the fish in the boat. And this isn't just around lily pads, hay grass, any type of lake that has a bunch of cover that is on a big flat. This is going to work really good. A frog would work in these same places, but when they've seen too many frogs. So let's talk about how you land these fish. So what I do is I don't reel it on like a super tight line. I kind of have my rod tip up, and when I'm reeling it, there's a semi-slack line. So when those fish eat it, they can get it way down in their mouth. That's the whole key to this. If you think you're going to set the hook immediate like you do with a frog, you're going to lose them. That hook's going to be out of their mouth, and if it touches a lily pad stem, a piece of Kissimmee grass, a reed, anything, they're coming off. So the key to this whole thing is when they bite it, you just let it sit, and you just let them take it. I do the same thing with a horny toad when I'm burning that on top, just with no weight on it. The key to that is you want them to have it way down in their mouth. That's when you're going to do really well. And the same thing goes if you're fishing a fluke and you're around all this grass. If that hook is at all sticking out of their mouth, you're going to lose them, like 90% of the time. So the key to this is you wait. Doesn't matter if they hit it right by the side of the boat or they hit it at the end of a really long cast. You just sit there until you feel the fish swim off with it. So basically, whenever you're fishing with braid, you don't want them to feel you. So you don't like reel like you're fishing a worm where you really feel the fish like swimming with it. You just kind of feel them moving. And with braided line, that's really easy to do because it's so sensitive. You have no stretch. So when you throw your bait out there, you're reeling it, you'll see a swirl, you'll see a blow up, or you'll just see your bait disappear, and then you just sit there. And you can kind of see your line moving. You know that there's a fish there. And then with braid and that extra wide gap hook, you don't always need to have the perfect everything to catch the fish. A lot of times you can just set the hook and you're going to get a really good hook set, even on like a semi-slack line hook set. Or if you maybe have the line wrapped around a lily pad or Kissimmee grass with that braided line, even without getting a lot of wood on the fish, just partially getting a hook set on them a lot of times will still make it a good enough hook set to land those fish. So this is one of my favorite things. Again, going back 16 years, it was a tournament winning technique. Everyone started doing it, so it kind of fizzled off quickly. But now we're to a point where like no one does it again. So I could definitely see this still winning a tournament. Now, Florida, everyone does this. This is a staple down here. You never go fishing in Florida without this rig. But other places that have big flats in grass, I always have one of these tied on when I'm covering, if it's the main river on Gunnersville in the fall time when the grass is topped out, or I'm in the backs of the creeks, I always have one of these tied on. Anytime I'm frog fishing, for the most part, this bait is going to be right there. And you can interchange them. If they're missing the frog, throw this right behind it. If they're missing this, throw the frog right behind it. It is a great bait anytime you're on heavy cover and you're casting. So try that. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.